abstract. In this lesson, we will cover abstract methods and classes. Abstract is very similar to interface, but they have their differences. Basically, you can do everything that an interface does. With an abstract class, create uninstantiated methods that class that extends it must create. Like a method, abstract method blah, and you have some class that extends the blah class and it must implement all the blah methods. Let's see what the Java documentation has to say. An abstract class is a class that is declared abstract. It may or may not include abstract methods. Abstract class cannot be instantiated, but they can be subclassed. An abstract method is a method that is declared without implementation, without braces, the curly braces, and followed by a semicolon, like the example they show. It's basically the same as I said. You create an abstract class, you give it, let's say, an abstract method that every class that inherits it must implement. Let's say in this case it's move2. And also, I didn't say, but they added here that it may not be instantiated. It also can't be final. We will cover final in the next few lessons. But it can be used in subclass as the parent class. About interface, I couldn't give you a practical example, but for abstract, I do have actual experience 8 years ago. The first time I learned about abstract, it was from my Indian tutor. Today he's not a tutor, he owns a company, a web development company. We basically had to implement 10 screens in PHP for a system. They basically did the same thing, but with little bit changes in the attributes, and the connection to the database was the same. So basically in half an hour we created the 10 screens. It was amazing. The abstract class has like close to 10 methods, and in a minute or so he created 10 classes with 100 unimplemented methods. We just hovered the class name and told it to add all the methods that the abstract class had, and we just had to change a few values. He did 5, I did 5. 10 screens in half an hour. 100 methods. I've never done something like this. So yeah, that is the power of an abstract class. I thought the job would take days or something. So here we have the empty project. We don't have anything. I will create the sample class again, like we had in the last lesson. It will, instead of implementing an interface, it will extend an abstract class. Let's create sample. I will add the class the fast way. From the top bar. We have the new class next to the package. I will call it sample. I won't do anything. I'll create another class and I'll call it say something. Like our say something interface. And here in Eclipse we can just tick the abstract checkbox and it will create an abstract class. So it's exactly like a normal class, but after the public you have the keyword abstract. That's it. And let's create an abstract method. Let's see the original say stuff, what it had. Let's just copy paste this, the say. This is it's a default. Let's see what's the problem. Default methods are allowed only in interfaces. Yeah, let's delete the default. Now it's okay. So when you want to create a default method in an abstract class, it's the same like interface but without default. So this is a default method that all the classes that inherit from say something can use. Let's create an abstract class. Well, here it doesn't allow us to do this like in the interface. This method requires a body instead of a semicolon. Yeah, let's write abstract. Abstract. So now it's okay. So here we have to add the keyword abstract, as in the interface we don't. Let's save it to the lesson about the differences between abstract and interface, which there are a few. You will probably see them. So yeah, we have basically the same thing. This is an interface, as you can see, it's not a class. And this is an abstract class with the same name that does the same thing. So in sample we will have to write extends with an E, say something. And now we will get an error. Let's see what it says. The type sample must implement inherited method. Now imagine I had like 10 methods and I just click add unimplemented methods. Bam, 10 methods. Oh, and we also, in the project I described, we had classes like this. It wasn't Java, it was PHP. We had classes like this to deal with the database and a few abstract methods to deal with each screen's functionality. They had a similar functionality but with different quirks, and an abstract class was perfect for this case. So here we have to say something. I don't remember what we did in the original sample class. Just want to copy it. Let's see. Nothing. Yeah, so let's put something in say something. In the something method. Something. This can be any functionality you want, as it belongs to the sample class. So we mentioned in interfaces the contract thing. So basically when you declare an abstract method in an abstract class and then you extend another class with said abstract class, it has to implement all of those bodiless methods that doesn't have that has a semicolon instead of curly brackets, instead of the execute or the method's body. So we have to implement those. As you can see, we did that. Here is something implemented, and here is the abstract something method. So if we had 10 of these, we would have to implement all of these, which is easy with one click of a button. We hovered sample, and let me show you again. We hovered sample and click add unimplemented methods. If we had 10, it would have created 10 of these, which is very useful. So in the main, let's create a sample class, an instance of a sample class. Also, let me show you that you cannot use say something, as they mentioned. We will have an error that says cannot instantiate type say something, because it's an abstract class. You cannot use it. You cannot instantiate it, but you can use it as a parent to other classes like sample. Let's create an instance of sample, call it S, same way we did in the last lesson. I will practically show you the same thing, as the same thing can be done with abstract, the same thing we did with the interface s dot say, this will say blah, and s dot something, this will say something. You can put any kind of functionality or whatever you need in this method or this method. I just output stuff to show you the method actually runs. What you do with it is your own business, as for this lesson I'm just showing you the syntax of how to use an abstract class. Another difference between an interface and an abstract is that you can only extend a class once in Java. There's no multiple inheritance. A class can inherit from one parent class, which is in this case is say something. So we cannot create calc. But what we can do is copy all of these from the calc from the last lesson, add them to the say something from this lesson, but we will have to copy the abstract, and before the type we will have to add the keyword abstract. And now we must implement all of these, which is easy. We'll hover sample and click add unimplemented methods. And it will add all of these, which we can again implement for fun. X plus y minus is x minus y, and x multiplied by y. Easy. So let's run it so you will see it really says stuff, blah and something. The say is a default class of the abstract say something, and the something method is an implemented abstract method from the say something abstract class. And that's basically it. If you look at the sample from the last lesson, it also has a something method which overrides the say stuff interface. This is an interface unimplemented method, and this is the same unimplemented method but in an abstract class, which is practically the same but with a different syntax. As I said, there are a few differences between abstract and interface, but they can do the same things, as you can see for yourself. This can be very useful, as I mentioned in a practical project I had with my tutor. We literally did work that should have taken a few days within half an hour with an abstract class. Writing 100 method should have taken more than a few button clicks. Hovering sample and clicking add unimplemented methods 10 times and creating 100 methods. I think you can tell how effective this can be, and the potential of abstract. Well, you might not see it now, but maybe in the future you might have to use it. And you'll probably see a few examples of this during the course when we get to the projects. Here I just wanted to show you the syntax. You basically create a normal class, add the keyword abstract, and then you can create default methods and abstract methods by adding the keyword abstract after the visibility and before the type return. And you don't need to add the curly brackets, you put a semicolon instead. And then you can use extend to use the abstract class. On other classes you can only extend a class once, meaning sample can only have one parent, which in this case is say something, and then you must implement all the unimplemented methods. All of these must be implemented in all of the abstract classes children, which is all of these, as you can see. And the sample class also has the say method. It inherits it from the abstract class, and this is a sample use. And that's it for this lesson.